Hello everyone. Welcome again to this tutorial on Python Basics. And in this tutorial, we are going to understand the function calls and understand how calling from another function to another function works out. So the basic agendas of this tutorial are understanding function calls and calling a function from another function. So let me explain it in a little detail. Calling and call functions are very basic common scenarios which we will find in programming very often. In fact, most of them are created once and then called by yet another function, which maybe we create on our own, or maybe someone else has created it already. So the function which calls is actually called the calling function. And the function which responds to the call and gets executed is called the called function. And calling a function from another function is not a very complex task. I have also created a tutorial on the same, and let's check out the example. So this example has three functions actually, pretty short functions. And in case if you're wondering why these sort of functions are being introduced here, is because there are a lot of methods which might not be very clear to you. So let me tell you the purpose of this program first. What it does is, there's a website called dmoz.org, which is open here. What we are trying to do is actually look out into this website and get all the links possible in this particular web page. So it can be done easily in Python. And this process is called web scraping, and we will discuss more about it later in other tutorials as well in detail. So let's go ahead with it. We have a method called getData, which actually uses a module called requests, which has been assigned an alias as RQ, and yet another package, Beautiful Soup, has been assigned an alias as BS. And now we have a method called getData. Now what we do in this getWebData function is we take the website and set an HTTP request and get the response. And then we return the response HTML data. Now in getAllLinks, it actually takes the HTML data and parse and returns us all the links in the particular HTML page. Once those links are generated, the work of displayLinks method is to check out these links and print their href tag. In case you might not know what an href is, it is actually the section where the link address of the link is stored. So let's go ahead and let's implement the rest of the functionality. What we have got to do first is, first of all, we have got to use getWebData to get the data. Now, since it will return as the response text, so what we can do is we can use yet another function over it, getAllLinks. Now, since I have all the links, therefore, we will do one more thing. Okay, now it seems pretty clear that first off, we're calling the getWebData. And this getWebData is called by actually getAllLinks. Now this getAllLinks is called by displayLinks. Therefore, once we run the example, there seems to be some sort of error. Probably might have been some internet issue with my connection. Anyways, we will go to that exception. What you can do is actually, you can go ahead and check out for this particular exception and try to catch it if you can. It's entirely up to you. Anyway, since we have all the links printed over here, the main purpose of the method is not to actually see how can we fetch data, because it could be a little out of our hand for the time being. What you might want to see is how the functions are called. We call it in a little awkward way. Let's do something like this. We go here and we call the getWebData method from the displayLinks, and we'll store the text in a variable called text. Now we will get all links and we will call it as weblinks. Now once we have weblinks, we may actually eliminate the input over here because we don't need it anymore. Now as you can see that this function called, first of all, getWebData and getAllLinks, the names are pretty explanatory, so I don't think anybody would be having any problem following it. So once we have these web links, what you might want to do is observe how we have used the for loop over here. So far in the loops tutorial, what we have done is, what we actually did was we took a number and created a sequence out of it. And then it created that over that number sequence using a for loop. But web links actually is a list. And the way we And list is also actually a sequence. And if you remember, the range function also generated a sequence, only which was actually a list of numbers. So as we attributed over that, we can attribute over this as well. So let's say if the web links have 100 elements, so once we are parsing it through a for loop for link in web links, so what it does is it goes through all the links one by one and executes a code over them. So this was pretty simple. We just had created two functions and called them one by one in yet another function called display links. There are lots of functions you can create and then call them in your own function. So what I would like you to do is go on and try to create simple functions using your own. They might not be as complex as it is. They could be simple. They could be of use or no use. But what I want you to do is to understand the syntax properly and how to implement this calling function functionality. In our next tutorial, what we're going to do is we are going to study about recursive functions. Recursive functions are a pretty interesting topic, and we often meet them in programming scenarios. For example, if you are writing a very big module and we want to do some clever work around it, then maybe we might use a recursive function. And in the next tutorial, we are going to study about them in detail. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.